Hi, it is a privilege to welcome you to Stand Up and Redo. It is a soulful, honest podcast hosted by me, Petra DeMuse, a woman over 50 who is navigating life's most tender transitions with courage and grace. I have weathered the storms of 2 divorces, raised children into adults, embraced the joy of grandchildren, and learned, perhaps for the first time, how to stand comfortably in my own solitude. Each episode explores the profound wisdom that comes with age, the lessons etched in heartache, the beauty found in unexpected places, the laughter that bubbles up in the quiet, and the peace that settles when we stop running from ourselves. With reflections on love, loss, aging, happiness, and the sacredness of this one wild and precious life, Stand Up and Redo is a companion for anyone who's learning to live fully after everything they thought would last has changed. This is a space for late bloomers, deep feelers, and fierce survivors. Come for the comfort, stay for the truth, and leave a little lighter each time. Hey there. Welcome back to my podcast, Stand Up and Redo. I am thrilled that you are here. And this podcast is going to be for you, especially if you grew up in the 80s and the 90s, because I just went through an experience watching the new movie, the Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere. That was, oh my goodness, it just took me back to when I was a child. Just the time, the way it goes back in time to the, the 80s, the early 80s, when he first started becoming really, really popular, which I think he was popular before that, but that's when I noticed he was popular because that's when I first started really listening to music. And I remember his music, and I remember, of course, Born in the USA, but I also remember like the Nebraska album. That this movie was really focused on him working through emotions as he was working through that album. And this movie that I just watched was nothing like I thought it was going to be, not even a little bit. I travel for work, and the cool thing was I was in Asbury, staying in Asbury Park when they were filming this movie a couple years ago. I was there in the winter, it was cold, and I remember certain roads as I was trying to drive. I had an Airbnb, and as I was driving back to the Airbnb, certain roads were closed, and Bruce Springsteen was actually there, they said, and also, of course, Jeremy Allen White, who I have a wicked crush on. I don't know if, I think a lot of women do, although he is a lot younger than me, but he just has this charisma about him that is like off the charts. And anyway, so my son, I was hanging out with my son and his girlfriend. Oh my goodness, I almost said my daughter-in-law, but nope, didn't say that. My son and his girlfriend. It was Halloween night, and all my kids came over, my daughters and my 5 grandchildren, and then my daughter's friends came over with their kids. So we had like a whole group of people trick-or-treating, and my son then afterwards, at the end of us we all ate some food and walked around the neighborhood to trick-or-treat, and then my kids were going to take their kids to the next neighborhood to get more candy, and it kind of left me alone with my son and his girlfriend. And we ended up, I said to them, hey, you two, do you mind helping me go buy a new TV at Costco? So at like 8 o'clock at night, like a half an hour before it closed, we're driving to Costco to pick up a TV, and then we proceeded to mount it on my wall that evening in our costumes. They were dressed up like Kermit Frog and Miss Piggy, and I wasn't dressed up at that point. I just had some like little festive necklaces on that lit up. And we were walking through Costco shopping for a television at like closing time. I'm sure they did not like us, but either way, when we were driving, I often will tell my kids little stories about when I travel, and I think I was telling them that I was in Asbury Park, and I was so excited because I was going to go see the movie then tonight, which is the night after Halloween. So I was telling them, yeah, I'm going to go see this movie with my friends. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Like, so woo, thinking that it was going to be a lot happier than the movie ended up being. But anyway, it was cute because when I told them that I went to Asbury Park while they were filming it, and I thought that was just really neat, and I was hoping so much to be able to, I don't know, I really have a thing for Bruce Springsteen. I grew up in New Jersey, and I just remember when we were young, my mom driving me through Freehold and pointing at his house that he used to live in, that's where Bruce Springsteen used to live. And then the Stone Pony, I didn't go until I was an adult, but I was a lot older, but I do remember walking through Asbury Park and just the feeling of it. It's like there's something about Asbury Park that is much different than other shore towns, and I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like art, well, now especially. It was a little run down for a while there, but now it's just super artsy. It's just this warmth and feeling of like there's different people. There's when you walk around every so many feet, there's like a different artist doing something, like playing the violin and singing, or just amazing music. It's almost like you're at like like a concert or like some kind of outside venue, but really it's just these people who are just playing music for tips. They're not like, doing anything formal. So you really do, if you go to Asbury Park, I'll tell you this much, take a pocket full of money so you can tip all these musicians. Because as you walk by, if you're standing there for any length of time and you're just listening to their beautiful music, it only makes sense to tip them, right? Because it is beautiful and they do a wonderful job. But what I was going to say is, getting back to the Springsteen movie, Austin, my son, I always tell him these funny stories. I just do, and he's always blown away by just silly things that I tell him about when I travel. And he's like, Mom, you could have been, because I always also meet people when I travel, women and men. I meet different people. I have a tendency to meet people pretty easily, and then I'll tell my kids a story about, I met this person, I said this. So he's like, Mom, I could imagine you saying, yeah, I was sitting at the diner in New Jersey, and this guy named Jeremy sat next to me, and we were talking, and we ordered eggs Benedict together. He was like acting like I could have met Jeremy Allen White at a diner in New Jersey, and not even have realized it and just been talking to him. And I said, Austin, first off, I know who Jeremy Allen White is. Hello. And then but it was just cute because I said, well, tell all your friends that I did have breakfast with Jeremy Allen White at a diner. We got eggs Benedict together, and see if they believe it. But I did that one time. I pretended that I met Philip Seymour Hoffman. My brother had a real, not man crush, but he really liked Philip Seymour Hoffman a lot. And I knew Philip Seymour Hoffman, who passed away sadly, used to go to Cape May a lot. And because my brother had this man crush on Philip Seymour Hoffman, I remember I took a picture of him in a magazine. It was a movie scene, and he was swimming in a pool doing laps, and he had, the goggles on and the head cap on. And I used to swim. I used to like to swim. So I told my brother, yeah, I was swimming at the Coast Guard base, and you wouldn't believe who was there. Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I sent him a picture of Philip Seymour Hoffman. It was just a close-up in this magazine, but it looked like I was really taking a picture of him in the pool. The picture looked so real that he actually believed me. I think he believed me. He would probably be like, yeah, right, I didn't believe you. But I really do think he believed me. But the irony of it was he then did actually get to meet Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I was just pretending that I did. Of course, I didn't get to, but that's the point of this little sidebar story about Philip Seymour Hoffman. And the neatest thing was my brother worked at this restaurant. It was called 410 Bank Street, and he worked there as a waiter. And he told me he loved Philip Seymour Hoffman. When we would get together and he would hang out with me or I'd hang out with him, we'd watch Philip Seymour Hoffman movies. Like, that's how we would, let's see this latest movie. Like, we were really fans of him. And the funniest thing was he had a movie, and this was probably a disc, and a Philip Seymour Hoffman movie. And he had a buddy who was a waiter, and he brought that movie in to let his buddy borrow the movie. While he was there that night, brought that movie in specifically for his buddy to borrow, lo and behold, Philip Seymour Hoffman comes and sits at his little station in the restaurant. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, just hearing his story. And I thought that was really cool. But anyway, I really got sidetracked there, like super sidetracked. But what I was saying is I just had to tell that story about Austin thinking that I would have breakfast with Jeremy Allen White and not even realize it. He must think I really don't know anybody or like watch television at all. But anyway, so back to the movie. The movie was nothing like I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be like this high energy, like happy, kind of silly, like fun movie. And I thought it maybe would go into his relationship with Patty, and then also the relationship that he had with that model for a short time. And then I thought it was going to go into like his whole like decades of his life, but it really didn't. It really focused on what must have been a turning point for Bruce Springsteen. And that was when he was in a home by himself, just recording on dinky old equipment, not even good equipment, his Nebraska album. And I think he even recorded some of his Born in the USA. The commendable thing about Bruce Springsteen is that at that time, when he was in New Jersey, he was at the height of his career, and everyone was waiting for his album to come out. And he didn't succumb to what was popular and he was a true artist. He felt his emotions, and living in New Jersey, if you've lived on a shore town, you know how depressing it can be along the Jersey coast in the wintertime. And I just know, because I'm a person who suffers from depression at times myself, and growing up in New Jersey in the wintertime, know just how depressing it can be. And also being from a family of artists, just knowing, I don't know, just that the way that an artist thinks. I think about Bruce, and I have to commend him for, one, the Nebraska album, and two, the movie he just made. It wasn't like anything that I thought it was going to be or that I thought it should be for what would be entertaining for everyone else. It really was his piece of artwork. It was truly a movie about him and about what he went through, and it's a story, and it's a phenomenal story. And it just makes me appreciate, first, a good movie with dialogue, and not a crazy, silly movie that we see where they just have all this violence and sex and these scenes that are outrageous, when Bruce truly was just sharing his story about a man growing up on the Jersey Shore. And if you haven't grown up on the Jersey Shore, I don't know how that movie would feel for you, but for me, it was very relatable, and it was just very honest, and it was very raw and very real, which is what I love. I love, even this podcast, I love telling stories that are raw and real, and sharing other people's stories that are going to be raw and real. I guess that's kind of, maybe I should have called it Raw and Real instead of Stand Up and Redo. But I want to just share, for my Stand Up and Redo is just to, it's actually be authentic with yourself. It's, for me, I'm trying to compare myself to other podcasts and what they're doing, and I'm watching them and I'm seeing how successful they are. But I want to be authentic, and I love, after watching Bruce's movie and just thinking of him as an artist, how raw, real, and authentic he is. And my Stand Up and Redo is to be raw, real, and authentic. So that's a really easy one. But I do want to read. I'm from a Jersey girl. I grew up in New Jersey in the 80s. And I have to share, I have to just share a list of silly things from Cape May, New Jersey, where I grew up. Just words, and it's just a list of words. And I'm going to share it with you. And if you have ever been there, or you've lived there, or you've gone there for the summer, you'll probably know this list of words. But this is what I think of when I think of my Jersey shore town where I grew up, in Cape May, New Jersey. And here you go. Banner Plains, Miss America Parade in AC, Black Horse Pike, White Horse Pike, Taylor Pork Rolls, Shoebies, Pickup Trucks, Crab Traps, Christian Admiral, Congress Hall, Seaview Tavern, words that make me think of Cape May, Beach Plums, Higsby's Beach, the Nude Beach, Lobster House, Kelties, Washington Street, Physic Estate, Sunset Boulevard, Bird Sanctuary, Mara's Nut House, Ferry Terminal, Fishing Nets, Delaware Bay, the Canal, Exit 0, West Cape May Bridge, Steggers, the Jetty, Texas Avenue Food Market, the Dry Dock Ice Cream Parlor, Maris Tavern, Jazz Festivals, Coast Guard Base, Old Convention Center that was made out of wood. Actually, roller skating, I forgot about that. Shell Beach, where you could just go collect beautiful shells, and the Sunken Ship. And I'll stop there, but thanks for listening. I really enjoyed this nonsensical review of Bruce Springsteen's most recent movie, and I would love to see another movie that he would make about another part of his life, because he just is a very interesting, deep man, and I know he has a lot of interesting stories to tell. So thank you. Hi, I'd like to give credit to Sarah Gephardt for the cover page of this podcast. This podcast is a work based on the personal experiences, reflections, and memories of the speaker. The events described are true to the best of the speaker's knowledge and recollection. Some names, locations, identifying characteristics, and timelines have been changed or altered to protect the privacy of the individuals involved. In some cases, composite characters have been created or dialogue has been reconstructed based on memory. The intention of this podcast is not to defame, malign, or harm any individual or entity. Rather, it is to share the speaker's journey with honesty, vulnerability, and integrity. Any opinions expressed are solely those of the speaker and are not intended as statements of fact regarding any person, group, or organization. Listeners should keep in mind that human memory is inherently subjective and selective, and while every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, this podcast reflects the speaker's perspective and truth. Thank you.